Hi, Keel Haulers. This is Jeff Ward, head athletic trainer here at Cal Maritime. I'd like to share with you an exciting opportunity we are getting ready to launch in January of 2021. It's an exercise and fitness program where users can sign up and follow a workout program specifically tailored to their own needs. All students, faculty, and staff are welcome to participate in this free program, offered through the collaborative efforts of the Athletics Department and the Resiliency Task Force. The platform for this program will be through Team Builder, a software application that you can download to your phone. From there, you can see your workouts and track your results. Team Builder will even send you a reminder if you have a workout coming up. You can learn more about Team Builder by visiting their website, teambuilder.com. If you're interested in strength training, cardiovascular training, maybe running a 5K, losing a little weight, or simply just getting out and being more active, we have a program for you. To sign up, you'll need to contact Jeff Ward so we can determine your goals and tailor your workout to meet those goals. Taking care of our physical wellness is an important part of our resilience. For more information, please contact me at jward@csum.edu. It's jward@csum.edu, or 707-654-1055. Let's kick off the new year right and do this together.
Hello, I'm Andre, and I'm here with Justin, with my co-host Kent. Justin is a senior majoring in global studies, and in his leisure, he likes to hang out with friends. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing just fine, Andre. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, as our first question, start off in your senior spotlight. What, like your whole year as a Cal Maritime cadet, what has been your experience?
Well, it's definitely been different from what I expected of college to be. Like, for example, um, I kind of expected that college would have been a little bit more easier in terms of like high school. It's kind of the opposite, I think, what most people think. But that was exactly the opposite of what I thought going into my freshman year. It was a lot of work, especially the schedule that I had is really jam packed. But something I would have never expected, my college career taking me was the opportunities that I've had, being able to visit other countries and study abroad.
What countries in particular did you go travel abroad for
So
your?
for my international experience, I went to Vietnam. That was awesome. That was like 3 weeks of just uh, kind of just visiting the culture. And I am Vietnamese myself, so I went there personally to find like my roots. And I absolutely fell in love with the country. Like some of my favorite spots are like Da Nang, Hoi An, and Sapa, and right on the border between China, this town called Lao Cai. Some of my favorite spots. And Halong Bay. Halong Bay is absolutely amazing. It's also the place where they filmed King Kong, like the new movie, and it's absolutely breathtaking. And then I've also visited Taiwan. Taiwan was also really awesome country. It's it's kind of like a cool mix of, I guess, Chinese and Japanese influence from over the years of each side, I guess, occupying the island. And that kind of whole mix from like Pacific to Han tradition and Japanese tradition has created this awesome mix of just food, culture, entertainment, with also a whole bunch of American influence, which I think anyone from America visiting Taiwan would definitely relate to the people there and the culture there. So overall, like if I didn't go to Cal Maritime, I would have never had these experiences, and that's what was so different for me, because especially growing up in California, I kind of just stayed in California, but Cal Maritime, the college experience made me learn about the outside world, and actually really made me want to go visit what these countries like really had to offer for me.
So in your South Carolina Sunday video, which you should definitely check if you haven't, you mentioned you like to go on your bike, but have you been on your bike around Vietnam and Taiwan?
Oh yeah, so well, um, it's kind of hard to explain in terms of like getting a motorcycle. So in Vietnam, like basically no one has a license, and to buying a bike there without a license is kind of illegal. But it's kind of this weird kind of acceptance where everyone doesn't have a license because it's kind of difficult to get in the system they have. And so every foreigner and almost every Vietnamese person has a motorcycle. And that's kind of how I got introduced um, to riding a moped or a scooter and then a motorcycle. So I did 2 experiences in Vietnam. I went to international experience, and then I went to study abroad at VMaru, which is the Vietnam Maritime University. And during IE, I wasn't allowed to drive a moped or a motorcycle, and I like that. That was like one of my big reasons for going studying abroad, where I really wanted to ride a motorcycle. So when I was during IE, I saw like the whole cities is just like flooded with like a school of mopeds, and it's pretty cool how like it seems like it's chaotic, but it's like chaotic order in terms of like the traffic. And when I went to study abroad, I got a really cheap 125cc cafe racer. It was like some garage built Honda, and it was an absolute blast, like figuring out how to ride on that. And once I learned how to get better riding in the streets of Haiphong, which is the city I was staying at, I took like little trips here and there. I rented a bike in Saigon, and that was an absolute blast, just riding around the south and you know kind of having fun down there. And then me and another Cal Maritime student, Evan Hagland, we both rented these 2, I think 150cc Yamaha mopeds in Da Nang, and then we drove like 30 minutes down the Vietnamese Coast Highway, which is like their version of like the PCH or the Pacific Coast Highway. And I remember just like driving 30 minutes down south to go visit Hoi An, which is like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of the coolest like little villages, and if you really want to experience, I guess, traditional like that kind of traditional Asian village that you think of, that's what Hoi An is. And we drove down the PC. I just remember vividly like driving down like or driving past Vietnamese beaches and just having a blast, like just. And I would never imagine I'd be able to do that. And then I took this really wild trip I rode from Haiphong to the southern part of China, which is Yunnan, the kind of the border between I think the Red River is the border between the northern highlands of Vietnam and the southern part of China. And I went to go visit cool places like a man-made lake. I stayed with the Zhao family, which is kind of one of the minorities in Vietnam. And then I kept driving north to Lao Cai, which is like a city. It's kind of cool because it's like a single city, but it's divided in half by a border. So you have like the Chinese side of the city, and then you have the Vietnamese side of the city, and that was cool. And then I drove a little bit south to go visit the highest town in terms of altitude in Vietnam, which was Sapa. And Sapa is like a really cool spot. Like it's one of the highest village or highest mountains in all of Southeast Asia. You can see like everywhere from the top. And believe it or not, like in Sapa, it actually snows. So you never imagine like it's snowing in Vietnam. And that was super cool. Like, you're riding past like jungles, and like there's bamboo mixed with pine, like pine trees. And then occasionally there'd be some snow falling down. That was really awesome. And then when I went to Sapa, I went to go stay in Sapa Valley, which is right next to Sapa town. And I stayed with the Hmong family, and that was really cool. Kind of experiencing their culture and their food. Super friendly people. Would highly recommend anyone, going abroad is if you want to experience like culture, like do homestays, because homestays, not only are they cheap, but you also get to actually experience on the other side of tourist kind of stuff, what these people actually do and where they live and how their lifestyle is. And then, that whole trip made me just fall in love with motorcycling, because I was out there like by myself with my bike for like a whole month, a little less than a whole month. And when I came back to the United States and back to Cal Maritime, I knew that my next big payment was going to be a motorcycle.
Awesome. That's wonderful. That's a lot of experiences that you had there. So, as this is your senior spotlight, what do you have plans for your future after graduation?
So the plans right now is to I'm applying to graduate school. I have a couple options on the table for me. There's CSU Long Beach, CSU San Diego, Cal Poly Pomona, and there. I just made a whole list. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I'm hoping to get in either School of Social Work, Homeland Security, or National Security, and that's what's on the table for me right now. After graduate school, I'm still deciding whether if I want to go into law enforcement or go join the military side. And it's right now that's kind of the two. I know I want to serve in some capacity for the country. I just haven't figured out yet where I want to serve and what different groups or organizations I want to serve in.
So since you're a senior, do you have some like recommendations or like advice to the incoming freshmen or your underclassmen in terms of like time management or like study habits?
You know, I people ask me this, and I usually say like, you just got to be good at time management, or you just got to be good at, I guess, never quitting. But after looking back at the 4 years I spent at Cal Maritime, I will say that the one piece of advice that really got me through was to just keep moving forward. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but the way I like to explain it is there's going to be times where you're going to plan something out, and then life is just going to throw something at you. Like I vividly remember when I did 2 years of Air Force ROTC, and I remember where I had this is like my first semester of sophomore year, and I had this leadership position in ROTC, part of my, I guess, element of my flight. And during that week, I had like 3 tests and an essay due. And then not only that, I had a big PT test at the end of the week for Air Force RTC. And, you know, it's kind of one of those like times where you could plan everything out, but you're definitely like not going to like it. And it's definitely not going to work out to the way you would hope it to, because there's just so much jam packed into that week. And so the only option for me was, either I quit and I flunk out on a test, or I flunk out on a PT test, or I just keep moving forward. And, at the end of the day, if I don't go forward, then I don't go anywhere. So that's like my one piece of advice for freshmen is it's going to get tough, especially at Cal Maritime. Like it's going to get tough. Like there's going to be times where you think like, oh, I have so much work. And then I have to, wake up for formation, or I have watched from midnight to 4 a.m. today. And you're going to be like, I can't do this because I don't have time to, I have to drop one thing to do the other. And the only time, the only thing I can tell them is the only thing you can do is keep moving forward.
That's a really good perspective to have. Yeah, setting priorities is definitely a key element to success. So, what made you get involved with the Resiliency Project? I know listening to your experiences, you probably dealt with gaining a lot of resiliency for yourself too. What type of experiences have you gained from becoming resilient?
Well, yeah. So like, there's definitely a lot of reasons. The reason I wanted to be part of the project. For one, I need to satisfy an internship requirement. So anyone who is in IBL or GSMA, you're going to have to fulfill an internship requirement. And the pandemic really hit me hard on that requirement. Like positions that I would get turned down because they had to shut down because of the virus. And then the positions that were open were so limited in terms of like where I had to be, and I just wasn't able to make it to some of the areas where I could do an internship. And so the Resiliency Project made it was like a miracle. Like I'm able to work from home, I'm able to help the school. And then the second reason was when I left Cal Maritime to go study abroad my junior year. Things like my sophomore year was awesome. Like the campus in terms of like the community and the connection was great. I definitely felt like people got along, and people were definitely caring about each other more than my freshman year. And then when I came back, like I already heard about some of the things that were going on when I was studying abroad. And, I vividly remember like sitting at a bar in Hoi An and reading the news that the school almost burned down because of another wildfire. And, and listening to some of the other cadets and how they felt, some of my friends that were still on campus. And basically, I think it was just a year of bad luck. And I think a bunch of connections kind of fell apart due to a number of reasons that was going on. Um, One of them, being students felt like their voices aren't getting heard, and I think that's a big reason. And even if they are getting heard, like reform isn't happening and change isn't happening, and that's the reason why I kind of wanted to step up for the Resiliency Project, where I wanted to be in terms of kind of like a voice for students before I leave to kind of get the ball rolling on reform and change. Because since we're not on campus right now, and I think right now is where we can do the most change. Where before everyone comes back, because eventually the pandemic is going to end, and hopefully it ends soon. We're all going to come back to campus, and I at least want to get something started where um, change is happening to where the school uh, comes back to when students come back, it's a much better place than it was when we left, when we all had to go into lockdown. And some of the change that I would like to definitely see before I leave is definitely change to how leadership in the Corps of Cadets is picked. Right now, it's picked by kind of like it's picked by the leaders already in place, and that's definitely not good in terms of if you want to have relationships between the Corps of Cadets and students, because that can lead to favoritism, and it could. I think both you and Kent understand that some people get watched and some people don't. This happens a lot in GSMA. And another change I also want to see is demerit reform. So back when I was a freshman, we used to have merits, and merits were the opposite of demerits, where you get points for doing good deeds. And so they took away the merit system, but then didn't change the demerit system. So they kind of just left a system where it's built on consequences and kind of authority, which I would understand that if it was a true like military school like USAFA or West Point or Annapolis, but Cal Maritime is a CSU, is part of the CSU system, and I of course does need to be some form of discipline, but I don't think taking away the merit system and leaving the demerit system the same doesn't really change anything. In fact, I think it makes things worse because you have now students looking behind their back, and then you also have students trying to enforce arbitrary rules, and there's no consistency to what rules are enforced and what aren't. So then that also plays into favoritism, where some students don't like another student, and so they're enforcing rules on them because they don't like them that they would never enforce on their friends. And so some of the things I want to change into the merit system are the demerit points. So there are some things that are just wildly, um, like in terms of like what you get demerits for, that are, are clearly like, clearly wrong. And there's no consistency to like the uniform, and then uniform violations. Like some people get warnings and some people get written up right away. And, I think that shouldn't be a Corps of Cadets led reform. That should be more of a student body led reform, maybe ASCMA or a different type of student body. So that's kind of the whole reason why I joined the Resiliency Project, is to kind of promote those reforms before I graduate.
So, being in line with the topic of resiliency, what do you do since the beginning of the pandemic to remain resilient?
So some of the things that I've done, um, I've definitely kept up working out. Both me and Andre are training for a marathon this semester, and we're using Team Builder, which is an app that is free for students to use. That's up and coming, and that's a really cool program where I have a training plan made for me, and that kind of keeps me sane, where I'm able to go outside and experience the outside. Also, too, I've picked up a new hobby, which is reef keeping. So I have a small little 10-gallon nano reef that I've been keeping up with. It's been kind of rough. I've lost a couple corals here and there, but some of the more resilient ones, resilient ones, are the. I have a Duncan coral that's still kicking it, and then I have some zoanthids, and then I have a hammer coral, which is really cool, and then I have some clove polyps, and that's really awesome because it's like a little part of the ocean that I have in my room, especially like the zoanthids since they come from Vietnam, and it like kind of makes me nostalgic thinking about it. And then other things that I do to keep me resilient is I go snowboard, especially right now since it's like the season. And my girlfriend, she loves to snowboard, so she always takes me. She's way better than me, and I finally actually got all my gear, so I no longer have to like rent and spend like $500 each season just to rent gear. So I would say, like, if you're stuck at home right now, um, find a hobby and stick to it. You know, try not to do too much because otherwise, then you might get burned out. Like, find something that you really enjoy and something that you could definitely spend a lot of time on and keep that enjoyment.
So, nearing the end of the podcast, what do you hope to achieve your final semester of your senior year?
Oh, there's a lot of things. Well, I think it'd be kind of cliche to say graduate. Um, if there's something I want to achieve at the end of my senior year is I want to be able to look back and say I have no regrets because there's definitely a lot of things I messed up, like, and of course you're going to mess up a lot of things for, in college, but when I graduate, whether it's going to be an in-person graduation ceremony or online, once I have my diploma, I want to be able to look back just one time and say, yeah, I did it. I have no regrets, and then quickly turn and keep moving forward. That's something I definitely want to achieve, you know, just finishing with no regrets.